Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Hello, my name is Daniel Copald, and I'm a Seattle Department of Construction and Inspection staff member. Thank you for joining our webinar this evening. By signing into this meeting with your email, you will receive future updates about the Tree Service Provider Registry. We are audio and video recording this meeting, and the recording will be posted to our tree and codes pages within a couple of days. This will include probably most of the question and answer session as well. Today we will be giving 3 short presentations on the Seattle Tree Codes and Tree Service Provider Registry, and this will be followed by a question and answer session where we will try to answer all the submitted questions. Any questions not answered tonight will be added to our frequently asked questions page. So to ask a question, please locate the 3-dot button at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. This is where the question and answer tool is. This is also where the chat button is in that lower right-hand corner. I will be using this chat tool to send you all links that appear on the screen. If you'd like to use the closed captioning, you can find that button in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. If you have any technical issues, please do use the chat tool to contact me directly. I would now like to introduce Deb McGarry. Deb is an arborist with SDCI. Deb, you now have the floor.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks everyone for coming or attending, I should say. And I believe we are recording this webinar. I think I didn't hear if Daniel said that. So we'll just get started here. I'm Deb McGarry. I'm an ISA certified arborist for over 20 years. I've worked at UW, SDOT, Parks, and now at SDCI for the past 3 years or so. I firmly believe that trees are vital for healthy cities. And Paul will introduce himself next.
Hi folks, my name is Paul Humphreys. I forgot to unmute my mic then, but I'm a certified arborist and tree risk assessor with SDCI. I've had the pleasure of working for the city of Seattle for 20 years for Parks, SDOT, and now SDCI, and glad to be here, and hopefully we can help you understand our code and the new requirements. Andrea?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrea Bowen, and I am the Tree Service Provider Lead. I have been with the city for over 20 years, and if you have any questions regarding the Tree Service Provider Registry and how to apply, please give me a call. I'd be glad to help you. Now I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Rutzik. I've been with SDCI for quite some time, but most recently with the CX team. I'm a product manager, and I'm working very closely with the environmental team on the implementation of this new tree legislation. So I will be helping out in the presentation portion around the new public notice requirements.
So an overview of what we're going to be talking about. We will be talking about Seattle's current tree regulations, and if anyone had attended the September webinars, will be a little bit of a review, but you can never review the code too often. As part of the registry, you attest to understanding and following Seattle tree regulations. So we're going to talk about those regulations a little bit. There's obviously not enough time to really dive into all the aspects of our tree regulations. So we want to encourage everyone to read the code. If you retain one thing from this webinar, is that you must read the code. And you can definitely always contact us at the virtual counter or through other means to ask questions if you run into parts of the code that you're not sure about or not sure how to apply. So then we will be talking about the Tree Service Provider Registry, a little bit about how to sign up, what documents are needed. Reminder that it does take effect on November 10th, and all commercial tree work in Seattle must be done by tree service providers registered with SDCI. And just another note, that includes consulting arborists, even if you don't do other kinds of tree work. Tonight we'll be talking a little bit more about the noticing requirements, and we will follow that up with a question and answer period. Just want to note that we are pre-approved for ISA CEUs, continuing education units. So after this webinar, we'll be submitting the names of everyone registered and their ISA numbers, if that was provided, to ISA for CEUs. So our SDCI purpose and values include helping people build a safe, livable, and inclusive Seattle. And we really think that trees contribute to the livability part of that value statement. And why we value trees, this is a little bit of preaching to the choir, I realize that, but we all know that trees provide ecological, economic, and social benefits, things like reducing air pollution, reducing stormwater runoff, and now with our increasingly hotter and longer summers, providing shade and cooling our neighborhoods is really important. They contribute to neighborhood livability and improve people's physical and mental health. Now, anyone who lives or works in Seattle probably has noticed that Seattle is getting denser. In some areas, a lot of smaller single-family houses might be replaced with 3 units on a single lot, a single-family house, and ADU and a detached ADU or backyard cottage. And as building density increases, tree value also rises, and tree care has increased importance. So the City Council passes legislation to protect trees and reduce illegal tree removal. It's part of a bigger push to strengthen tree protection. So an overview of the Seattle tree regulations. First, I will note there's talk about changing regulations, but want to underscore that the current tree code has not changed yet. And some of the questions that we get almost on a daily basis are, do I need a permit to remove this tree? And to answer that question, when you're out on a site, will have to ask and answer a series of questions and then use those answers to consult the code and find out whether permits or approvals are required. So the questions we ask in response to, do I need a permit to remove this tree, is what's the size and species of the tree? Is the tree exceptional? Is it hazardous? Is the tree on undeveloped land, developed property, or developing property? Is the property within an environmentally critical area? And is the property within the shoreline district? So a quick couple questions to test your knowledge. Do you need SDCI approval to remove a hazardous 25-inch Douglas fir next to a house on a property with no environmentally critical area? Do you need SDCI approval to remove 4 healthy 12-inch diameter Leyland cypress trees next to a garage and with no environmentally critical area on the property? You can put answers in the chat if you like, or just keep them in your head. So to answer these questions, we have to consult with the code, with a municipal code 2511. You can put that into Google and pull up the actual code. You know, it is legal code language, but it's not too long, so it's somewhat easy to interpret. Some of it is anyway. So just running through some of the sections. The beginning few sections talk about purpose and intent, definitions, and exemptions. The 2 sections that are highlighted in yellow are going to sort of be the focus of our talk tonight, but 2511-040 talks about private property where there is no development ongoing, or no official development project or permit. On those properties, it talks about exceptional trees are protected, and Paul's going to talk more about exceptional trees. And no more than 3 trees can be removed in a year. 050 talks about during construction projects, tree protection areas and requirements for arborist reports. 060 through 080 talks about neighborhood, residential, low-rise, mid-rise, and commercial zones. Okay, sorry. 2511-090 talks about tree replacement during construction. Hold on, sorry, I have
So this is Daniel. I have gone ahead and dropped the last couple of 2 links that Deb referred to in the chat, the municipal code there. So if any of you do want to get a hold of that, you can. I see that Deb is back. So if you need those links, they're in the chat. Thank you.
okay, sorry about that. Small interruption. So 2511-090 is about tree replacement on construction projects, and 095 is about the new tree service provider registry information. There's notice for commercial tree work, and different companies must do the risk assessment report and the actual tree work if it's an exceptional tree that needs STCI approval. Consultants must also register, as I mentioned. And then the last section is about enforcement and penalties. With that, Paul will start talking about the director's rule and exceptional trees.
Thanks, Deb. Hey, folks. Director's rules are the purpose of director's rules is to further explain code and sort of fill in the blanks, if you will. So the current director's rule that determines whether tree that outlines exceptional trees is 16/2008, and this is linked on a website. So essentially, exceptional trees, it's trees that are either designated a heritage tree, large trees, or rare cultural historic trees, trees that are part of a grove. That's defined in the rule by 8 or more trees that are 12 inches or greater that form a continuous canopy. And smaller diameter trees that are part of a grove should not be removed, especially if it damages the health of the grove. The Director's Rule 16/2008 has a Table 1, which lists some of our common native and non-native species. So one of the common misconceptions I often run into is that if the tree is not located on Table 1 of the rule, that it's not considered exceptional. So, and that's on the next slide, I'll go into how we determine those trees that aren't on Table 1. So this rule talks about how we measure trees, that we measure them at a standard height, which I'm sure most folks realize is 4.5 feet above grade. It talks about measurement of multi-stem trees and trees on slopes, trees where at 4.5 feet, you can't get a good measurement. We measure those at the narrowest point below that. So this is really the sort of bread and butter, if you will, and this is the rule that you really should know when you're out there looking at trees or looking at trees in your property and trying to figure out if they're indeed protected or not. There's a risk assessment portion of this rule that talks about risk assessment of trees where no development is proposed and risk assessment where development is proposed. There's actually just some different requirements for qualifications for that. If you're an arborist, for instance, looking at trees for development, there's a little more experience required for that. For trees outside development, the ISA tree risk assessment is what we're looking for arborist reports outside of development. Could you move on the slide, please, Deb? Okay, great. So if the tree isn't listed on table 1, if you look at page 2 of the rule, size thresholds, it refers to these 2 references. The Trees of Seattle, 2nd edition. So essentially, this book documents a lot of our trees in Seattle. And if it's not in table 1, we look to this resource and we look for the largest documented diameter of that species and then figure out what 75% of that diameter is. And then that gives us the exceptional size. So it's a pretty complex way to figure it out, and can be a challenge if you don't have access to this resource. So we're here to help through our virtual counter. You can get a hold of us if you're writing a report. You need to know if a species that you run into is not on that table 1. In the future, the plan is to simplify this with a new director's rule, but currently this is how we determine those trees that are not on table 1. So the champion trees of Washington State, I don't really commonly have to use that one because the Trees of Seattle tends to have the species that we run into. So again, we're here to help. So don't be overwhelmed by this. Next slide, please, Deb. So, some surprising thresholds. This is where I say, don't assume that a tree is exceptional at 30 inches. There's plenty of native trees that are exceptional, at very small thresholds. For instance, Pacific dogwood at 6 inches diameter as standard height, shore pines 12 inches. And then there are some trees that are just, we don't consider exceptional, such as black cottonwood, bitter cherries. And then when they grow on their own, they're not exceptional, but remember that if they're within a grove or they're within an EC area, then they can be protected. So it's good to be aware of this rule. And yeah, okay, thanks. And so we do approve removal of protected trees if they meet a high risk determined by an ISA risk assessor. And on our website, tip 331B, that walks through the requirements for what we require for that application. Normally, the tree has to meet a high risk rating. In some instances, this can be a high risk, to structures. Say, a tree's being planted too close to a house and it's lifting the foundation. And there are provisions for emergency removal of protected trees where there isn't enough time to make an application. And for those trees, I encourage folks to use that smartphone camera, get some really good pictures, document the situation if there's time and it's daylight, and you can do that. And an application still is required just after the fact, so as soon as possible after the removal. Next slide, please. Okay, so we do have a new Director's Rule 8, 2022. This just got published. And essentially what this does is it clarifies the terms and information in the new section of the Tree Protection Code 095 and the existing 100, which talks about violations to the chapter. So I know folks are pretty interested in that. And it just sort of walks through some of the common questions that we get. If you're a consulting arborist, for instance, you do not need a state contractor's registration. Stump grinding companies are not required to register if that's the only line of business they perform. And then it goes into insurance coverage, and then the least favorite part of things, the violations and penalties. The next slide, please. So yeah, of course, compliance is of concern, especially with new regulations. So 100, like I said, is the section that goes into that. And one of the ramifications of the new registry is that essentially that if you have 2 notices of violation within that you get taken off that registry for a full year period. So, but of course, we're here to work with you, try and inform you so you know the code and you can reach out and ask us questions so that we can avoid anyone getting notices of violations. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Andrea, and she's going to talk about the new registry. Thanks, Andrea.
Thanks, Paul. You've just heard a brief overview of the tree protection regulations and the applicable tree codes from both Deborah and Paul. I'll give a brief overview of the Tree Service Provider Registry and the steps to register. So what is the Tree Service Provider Registry? The registry is a directory of providers eligible to conduct commercial tree work within the city of Seattle. This registry is important to the city's tree protection efforts as it ensures that tree service providers are familiar with and agree to abide by the city's tree codes as mentioned by Deborah earlier. It is also another way for businesses to receive free advertising as their business name will be listed in our online directory. So what is defined as commercial tree work? Commercial tree work is any of the listed actions conducted within the city of Seattle in exchange for financial compensation. This work includes major pruning as defined in Title 15 of the Seattle Municipal Code, removal of trees larger than 6 inches DBH, and the assessment of the health or hazard risk of trees also larger than 6 inches DBH. Please note that normal and routine pruning operations that do not meet the definition of major pruning are not considered commercial tree work. Now, who should apply? If your company provides tree removal, tree pruning, and/or consulting services, and you conduct business in the city of Seattle, you should apply. Next slide, please. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Now, for some of you I see on this presentation, I've worked with you before, so this will be somewhat of a review. But for those who are new, if you're interested in joining the Tree Service Provider Registry and you want to conduct business in the city of Seattle after November 10th, you will need to complete an application. And the first step is to create or log into your Seattle Services Portal account, and we'll provide instructions later on in this presentation. After you have logged into the Seattle Services Portal account, you will need to have the following 4 documents available. You will need a City of Seattle business license, and that must be current. We do not accept the Washington State business license, just the City of Seattle. You will need a Washington State Labor and Industries Contractors license, a current ISA card that includes the arborist's name, the expiration date, and the credential number. And you will need insurance documents for general liability insurance with a minimum of $1 million coverage, listing the City of Seattle as an additional insured. After you have entered that information into the application, you will need to read and attest to the 4 applicable tree codes, and those are Seattle Municipal Code Chapter 2511, Seattle's Tree Protection Code, SDCI Directors Rule 16-2008, Directors Rule 8-2022, and the ANSI A300 Standards of Subsequent Standards. Once you have attested to reading and understanding those codes, you will need to upload the 4 mentioned required documents. Once you have uploaded the documents, you will click the certification checkbox to complete the application. And once you've done that, you will receive a license number. There will also be a follow-up email that will give you, that will also provide you with the license number and ways to contact our office. Once SDIC has reviewed and confirmed your information, you will receive your license documentation and will now be active in the SDCI Tree Service Provider Registry. Yay! So now I will pass on the mic to Lisa, and she will talk about the tree public notice posting requirements.
All right, so starting on November 10th, which is next Thursday, the hiring entity, which is the property owner or property manager, whoever is hiring the commercial tree service provider, must post a public notice of major pruning or removal of the trees on their property. This needs to happen at least 3 days before the work is projected to happen. If the work happens after those 3 days, that's fine, but the notice needs to be up for a minimum of 3 days prior to that work. And the notice is required whether or not a separate permit is required by SDCI. I would like to note that the tree public notice requirement does not apply to tree work in ECAs, the environmental critical areas, or to removal of hazardous trees. However, there may be codes that are in effect and permits that are needed for work in ECA and hazardous trees. So you should consult the website and the codes that Paul and Deb reviewed earlier, as well as our webpage, which has links to all of those resources. Next slide, please. So in order to create a public notice posting, you will go into the same portal that Andrea just mentioned. You will need a portal account, and then in the notice, you'll provide the contact information for both the contractor, which is the tree service provider, as well as the hiring entity, which is most likely the owner. You also need to provide a brief description of the work that's being proposed. So you'll have to specify either major pruning or removal, the species of the trees that are being affected, as well as the DBH, what their exceptional status is, and then also indicate where on the property the tree is located. So you're given 3 choices of front yard, rear yard, or side yard. You'll also need to include the tree service provider's registration number and any related permit numbers that are associated with work on that property, and then indicate the earliest projected start date of the work, the tree work happening. After you have filled this information out, it takes about maybe 5 minutes. You will receive an email with a link to the notice document that you can then print and post. We are working on a new tip, which is going to be 242D, and that will kind of outline the best practices for posting a public notice in terms of where it gets posted, how it gets posted, et cetera. The code does require that the notice be in a location that's adjacent to the right-of-way on the private property and in a safe and accessible location. So with that, I wanted to just very quickly, if you go to the next slide, please, I wanted to show you, this is the tree, what we call the tree landing page in the portal. So this is how you come in to register to become a tree service provider. This is also where you come in to create a notice, your public notice. So the image on the left is the kind of the tree landing page menu. At the very bottom is a section on trees. So all the tree related information is there. When you click there, it opens up another page, and there you'll see a link to the public notice to create that public notice that I've just talked about. Also see a link to register to become a tree service provider, that Andrea just talked about. And then below that, there's also a link to the directory of approved tree service providers. So I just wanted to get that visual in front of you so it looks familiar. And with that, I will hand it back to Paul, who's going to go through some of our other resources that we've got available to you.
Thanks, Lisa. So most of these resources, all of these resources are on our main Trees and Codes webpage. we have this specific phone number, and that's just for, tree service registry questions. Not code questions should go through our virtual counter. We have an email, stci-trees@seattle.gov. And then our webpage has links to the new director's rule, the current director's rule for exceptional trees. Everything's on there, and it's pretty easy to find now. So they've done some great updates. So, and I think Daniel's been posting these links to the chat as well. And we're going to be putting this up on the webpage, this presentation. So I think we want to get into the Q&A now. So Daniel's going to help moderate that. And thanks for listening. And I know we had to run through a lot of information really quickly. So definitely encourage folks to get online. And if you're not familiar with the code and the rules, it's some good bedtime reading. So I think we'll launch into the Q&A.
Paul, very good. I'm going to do my best to get through this. We've had a lot of information go back and forth. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is a question, but a question, an attendee says that they were told by SDCI that if a tree is 30 inches, it's exceptional unless an exempt species, some smaller such as a native dogwood. I am not enough of a tree expert to kind of read into that question, but is there something there that you can provide for Tina?
So what you need to refer to the director's rule essentially, because many of our native species are below 30 inches, and then with using that resource, the trees of Seattle, often trees are exceptional below 30. So there's a range. That's what I'm trying to say. So never assume that a tree has to be 30 inches above to be exceptional. And of course, with the new draft code and the new proposal coming, we're going to make it much simpler. But under the current rules, you need to refer to that director's rule to determine if it's exceptional.
And just a quick clarification, also many non-native species are exceptional at less than 30 inches, like one
Certainly.
12-inch, Japanese maple is 12 inches. We've run into that a lot.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All of you can open up the question and answer panel, those three dots in the lower right-hand corner, and you can see some of the questions that have been answered already. I will go ahead and answer them. It's a much easier spot than the chat, if you would, please. So Patrick asked if that the arborist certification takes months to complete with quizzing and everything. That is required to be registered and required to perform major pruning. Correct. And our answer is yes, an ISA certified arborist is required to be on staff or on retainer in order for a business to become a registered tree service provider. Would any of you like to provide any clarification on that? Or is that pretty straightforward?
I think that's fairly straightforward, yeah.
Great, thank you. Once a notice had been posted of major pruning, are the trees, the tree service provider bound only to that work should a climber see a large dead tree or damaged limb high up in a tree not originally in the scope of the work? Can that be added even though the tree and that work is not that work and or that tree are not specifically listed on the notice?
I would say that, that's up to the company's discretion. And yeah, for certainly, what we're concerned with is, removal of protected exceptional trees. So we obviously, when you're up in a tree, you find more things that need to be done. So certainly that would need to be just taken care of. I don't I wouldn't think you'd want to repost. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I wouldn't see that being an issue. As far as dead trees, if it's a dead exceptional tree, we are still required to approve those, but we will often waive the risk assessment and the arborist form on dead trees just to make that a little easier. So the only place that would be an issue is if it was you saw a dead exceptional tree. But I would imagine if you've sold the job and looked on the site that you would have come across that before. So Deb, you got anything to add there? Sorry.
Yeah, two things. Like the notice is fairly general as far as tree pruning, tree removal. So if you find something else, I think you'd still be in compliance generally with the registry. There's also, I mean, if you find something that makes the tree an imminent hazard, you get there and there's a active crack in the trunk, that then becomes an imminent hazard, and that's certainly okay to deal with at that point. Also, just note that code compliance is a separate division with their inspectors. They do consult us frequently, but they have discretion. You know, there's some common sense that goes into it. They do get a lot of calls, and they have to go out and check on those. But there's common sense that goes into their discretion, and then sometimes they consult with us, and we use some common sense as much as we possibly can to figure out these enforcement issues.
Very good. And I'm sure a lot of folks are curious if the public notice section of the portal is currently live. This question has been asked, and yes, it has. Please visit the tree landing page on the Acela portal and click on the SDCI tree public notice. You can find that link in the chat as well. Another question that we have, are the tree service providers expected to post the notice or send to the hiring entity to post themselves? I'm going to let both of you weigh in on this.
The
So if you want me to, I could take this
yeah,
one.
Lisa. Yeah, yeah.
So, and maybe I can hit a few questions, but there's some related questions. So the code specifies that it's the hiring entity's responsibility to post the notice. That said, anyone can help post the notice. It's just the responsibility is with the hiring entity. So if the tree service provider would like to, or is able to, or can offer to, they certainly can. The tree service provider most certainly has a vested interest in making sure that the notice happens and it happens correctly. So I would imagine that the tree service providers are working closely with their clients to get confirmation that the notice went up if they're not doing it themselves or on behalf of their client. And then to the question of violations, both the tree service provider and the hiring entity are at risk of being in violation if the notice does not happen correctly.
And I see a question about, can the tree service provider post a notice for hiring entities that do not have access to a computer or are unable to use a computer? Yes, definitely. You can. The tree service can enter the information about the tree, get the notice. You can mail it to the person. I put something in the mail to West Seattle on Monday. I think it came today. So you have to be planning ahead a little bit, but in theory, you could print it out for them and mail it to them and have them post it. I see another question about what happens if you arrive to a job site and the posting is no longer up. You get a violation for proceeding with the work as scheduled, or is that violation one that goes to the hiring entity? I think Lisa maybe if you could take that one.
Sorry, I was working on a response to another one. I would say that if I were a tree service provider and I arrived on the site and there was no notice, then you are certainly proceeding at risk, at your own risk, and could receive a violation because we don't know if a notice happened and you don't know if the notice happened. So I probably would recommend not proceeding with the work until you had some verification that the notice happened correctly, because I think as a tree service provider, you stand to lose. As Paul mentioned, if you get 2 or more violations within a 1-year period, you're kicked off the registry for a year. So it's certainly in your interest to make sure that the notice did happen correctly. And if you suspect that it didn't, of course it's your choice, but I would proceed with caution.
You can
Let's see.
also bring a copy of it with you. I mean, that doesn't mean it was properly posted for 3 days, but something.
I see John Zarin's on here, and he was saying, should he take a picture of the notice when posted? That would be a good thing to, everyone has a phone normally these days, so I don't think it hurts. If you send the notice to the customer and they post it out there and take a photo and that's time stamped, that seems reasonable to me. I mean, yeah.
I have a question here. I'll jump in here while others are responding in type. Uh, an attendee wants to confirm that every tree removal and pruning line item needs to be listed on the notice along with the DSH. I'm willing to bet that's DBH of every tree. Is that correct?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, exactly. So when you go into the notice, they'll ask you to identify each tree, and then it becomes a line item in a table. And so for each tree, you'll identify the name, the species name, the DSH, whether or not it's exceptional, whether or not you are removing or doing major pruning, and so that there can be 1 or more rows on this table. So, but yes, you would want to indicate the work for each tree that's being impacted.
And I think there was, if there was an email about this earlier today, but I mean, I think if there's multiple trees, you don't have exact measurements for all of them. You probably could estimate, you look at a lot of trees, you're probably pretty good at estimating a rough diameter. You can tell a 12-inch tree versus an 18-inch tree. And I think an estimate is acceptable. As long as it's not you're sure it's not an exceptional tree. That's the one thing where you want to make sure have the species identified right and the diameter and check what the exceptional size is, because as Paul said, some of them are surprisingly small.
So for my panelists, in addition to the question and answer panel, we do have a lot of questions in the chat. So I think maybe I'm just going to jump in here and try to ask you a couple of them. We've been asked if a tree service provider needs commercial auto insurance.
I think that's a question for Andrea. She can unmute. I'm pretty sure they do not, and there's nothing about that in the.
And that actually is a question for Samantha. And at this point, as far as 2511 is concerned, no. The auto insurance is not a requirement.
All right, very good. Are tree service providers going to be held responsible for a customer that employs two different companies to remove trees and prune multiple times in 1 year? For example, if a customer removes 3 trees in March with one provider and then 3 more in the same calendar year with another, would that second tree service provider then be on the hook for the violation? I guess that's the question.
Yes, potentially. We are we're we are tracking these notices by address. So if a notice has been created for 3 trees, up to 3 trees, including 3 trees to be removed, and another notice comes in later for more trees to be removed within that 1 year period, that will flag an alert that they cannot do that. So the system will let the person know. That said, if somebody went ahead and did that work, then yes, they could potentially be in violation because it's about the number of trees being removed from a property within a 1 year period. It's not about who does it. So if the second party that does it, if they do that, then they would be at fault.
Very good. We've been asked how to help elderly clients that don't have internet access and can't register to SDCI for this process.
I can take that. What they can do is mail in a copy of the application and we can process it from the office.
And let me clarify, I want to be really clear about this because I think it is a little confusing in the code that only the commercial tree service provider is required to register, not your clients. The clients are going in and creating the public notice. If you're concerned that you have a client who doesn't have access to a computer or doesn't know how to navigate that, then you certainly can assist them in that, or they can contact us for help. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that your clients don't have to register. I know it might get confusing because we're talking about a registry and a public notice. So I just wanted to be really clear about that.
Great, thank you. I'm going to now combine a couple of questions. Has the exceptional tree rule for DBH sizes been reduced, or are they going to be? And can you speak to any limits on diameters of branches being removed from an exceptional tree? For example, SDOT requires permits for all branches over 2 inches. What constitutes major versus minor pruning?
I can speak to the first one. So the question about have exceptional tree diameters been reduced? No, they have not. There's some draft legislation out that they may be reduced, but we really don't know. So it's been proposed that we keep that same list from the director's rule, and anything that's not on the list would be exceptional at 24 inches, so not referring to the Trees of Seattle book. That's been publicly posted as a draft rule, but we really don't know what's going to happen with city council. There's a lot that goes into passing legislation, so I wouldn't count on anything changing, or it might change, might not. Anyway, for now, just focus on like the existing legislation, because we don't know what's going to happen with the future legislation. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Lisa, I want to circle back and note that we've been told that a service portal account is required to download the notice. Is that a correct understanding that the hiring entity would, that's how they would get at their notice to post?
Yes. But again, the tree service could also create the notice through their portal account.
And
And
what will happen is whoever, either the contractor, the tree service provider is creating the notice, or the hiring entity, once that notice is created, it is emailed out to both parties. And it's a link to a PDF. And I do not believe you have to have a portal account in order to open that PDF. That should not be happening. And if it is, I'd like to learn more about that.
Great. I appreciate that clarification. That clears up a lot. Thank you. So there's some concern about tree service providers showing up and the posting not be there. So if someone tears this notice down and you show up, is the crew supposed to pack up and leave? Clearly this would be a really huge burdensome problem for companies to battle. Any suggestions on how providers can be prepared?
I think, like Lisa said before, that's a judgment call that, it's hard to sort of predict situations and put ourselves in your shoes out there. So I think that's your judgment call to make. I would think, the nature of the work that's happening too would determine that. If, if a tree, an exceptional tree is being removed and you think there's going to be issues because of that, then I would reassess. But really, that's a tough question to answer because there's just so many factors that come into that, and really code compliance are going to be the ones that are having to come up with these answers. So I think it's.
Oh, sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
can add to that. That's definitely something that I've been thinking about, and we've kind of been
Yeah.
talking about. And I suspect that tree service providers will adjust their business practices to account for this, because you really have, as a tree service provider, you have to be working very closely with your client to make sure they're kind of pulling their end of the bargain and getting that notice up correctly, assuming that you as their tree service provider is not going out to the site to post it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, a tree service provider started charging, and saying, like, if we come to the site and the notice isn't there, we will charge a flat fee for our time, and we will have to reschedule at another time. I think there's things that, as the tree service provider, that business, you're going to be on the hook. And so you're going to really want to be working closely, coordinating with your client, but also having, sort of a safety net to account for your time and not having your time wasted. But again, that's going to be completely up to each business.
So this is a question, I'm going to read it as verbatim as I can. Can you be clear on distinction of responsibilities and penalties between providers and clients, specifically regarding the posting? Who is liable if the posting doesn't happen as required? And I think that's going to be the last one of those questions that we have. No, there's a few more. Let me.
What I can say about that is that we have drafted a tip 242C that we are hoping to finalize then very shortly, along with the tip 242D. So we'll have one tip for the registry and another tip about public notice. And we will have some information about enforcement and penalties in these tips. So we'll have more clarification on that, because unfortunately the code is silent on this. So we're having to kind of work through those those scenarios.
Great, thank you. This is a sort of broad general question. What is the purpose of the 3-day notice?
That's an excellent question. I don't know that we know this. We didn't write this code. I don't know, Deb and Paul, if you have more background on what the intent behind this is.
I'm really not sure. I mean, I know with tree removal in the right of way, it's a 14-day period, and that's meant to capture, you know, time for people to protest, you know, maybe protest the removal if they don't agree with it. But they, like you say, city council are the ones who wrote this piece of legislation, and I'm not quite sure what the significance of the 3 days is. I mean, you know, like with setting out no parks, it's 3 days, so maybe it's a similar kind of idea for that, just to let people know this is happening. Yeah, but I don't have a good answer, I'm afraid.
Okay, then and there really is no answer to the next question that I want to dovetail here. But it's been recommended that this be amended to specify 3 working days, and it sounds like that is done legislatively and not in our office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say any concerns or requests to change the code would have to go to a city council member.
Great, thank you. Um, eh, Scott writes in that he believes it was stated that for situations not involving development that only a TRA form is required. Is that correct in assuming that an arborist report does need to accompany the TRA?
Yeah, and for removal of exceptional trees, we normally require the arborist report and tree risk assessment. That tip 331B is the document to look at. In some cases, if the tree's clearly dead or just clearly, you know, through photo documentation is just completely decayed and obviously a high risk, we will waive the requirement for the arborist report and risk form. So there are instances where definitely encourage folks to reach out to us though, you know, over through the virtual counter or over email and give us some good photos and just ask, you know, because, you know, people have asked me, why do I even need a application for a dead tree? And that's a perfectly reasonable question. And so we just do our piece that we can to try and reduce that burden by waiving the need in certain cases. We're not able to waive the application, but just ways of trying to to reduce the burden on property owners, you know, the cost. So, but most situations, the arborist report and risk form is just a requirement for the application. Hopefully that answers that.
It also looks, this is a different question, but it looks like there's a few questions about what the definition of major pruning, and Paul put that in the chat. And there's also a question about dead branches. 2-inch dead branches over 2 inches do count as major pruning. The question asks if they need to be approved, but pruning doesn't need to be approved, only removal of exceptional trees. So you just say you're pruning. It doesn't matter.
Our current practices are not to regulate, you know, maintenance and even major pruning that's done to ANSI A300 standards. And we don't require applications for work on exceptional trees that's major pruning. And I think that is the intent moving forward, that we'll still only require applications for full removal. But the caution there is that the work follows the ANSI standards and is is an approved ANSI standard. So that wouldn't include topping, of course. And yeah, the definition is the definition. It's removal of branches over 2 inches in diameter, 2 inches diameter or greater, removal of roots 2 inches in diameter or greater, or removal of branches constituting more than 15% of a tree's foliage bearing area. So, that's most pruning of trees fit into that major pruning, in my opinion, unless you sort of just reducing an apple tree or something.
Here's a question that kind of is related back again to 3-day noticing. Does the notice have to be up while you're working so that people in the neighborhood can view it? I'm guessing, I'm reading into this, that this work is coming. We put up our notice 3 days before we think it's going to happen, and the tree service really isn't able to get there for another week and a half. Does that sign need to stay up through that time period?
That is a good question. I mean, I think if you're doing work and it's not posted, you're more likely to have someone call in a complaint, and then have an inspector come out, maybe have to stop. I think that's another reason to bring a copy with you to the job site and put it up when you get there. If it's not up, say it was posted 3 days, 10 days before, um, but it's not there anymore, I definitely would recommend putting it up, so that people will know that you're legit. Because
Yeah.
I think a big impetus to pass for this legislation is the a lot of illegal tree removal that happens, and companies coming with unmarked trucks and removing exceptional trees. So having that notice up while you're doing the work and showing that you're legitimately doing the work, whatever it is a good idea.
Great, thank you. I do want to remind everybody we're at 6 o'clock right now. We've got a few more questions I'm going to try to get to. So give me just one moment. So this one's a nuts and bolts question. I'll go for it right away. How does major pruning apply to reducing a leyland cypress hedge that a client wants to reduce by multiple feet?
That, in my mind, work to hedges such as reducing it would that would just fall under routine maintenance, and from what I determine in the code, we are proposing in the new code that's hopefully going to come out next year that hedges are exempt. Currently, under 2511, we do not even have a definition of hedges. So we often get these questions like, is a hedge a grove? And I would say that if the intent of the planting is a hedge, that we wouldn't consider that major pruning. It's maintenance to maintain the hedge at a certain height. And that's where the current code doesn't actually give us good, clear direction. So we have to sort of look to standards and intent of the planting. I would caution if there's reasonable spacing between the trees and they've never been maintained as a hedge, then that would be something. Definitely reach out through the virtual counter, give us photos and address, and then we could look into those situations on an individual basis. But I think our attitude is that hedges should not be regulated. I think is our attitude as arborists.
Very good, thank you. Andrea, I think this question's for you. I'm assuming, how long is it currently taking to process applications? And Brian, you might want to be a little bit more clear, is this an application for a hazardous tree removal? Is this an application to join the tree service provider list? That's what I had assumed. So if we have any information on how long it takes to process any of our applications, I'm sure that people will be interested. Thank you.
I can answer the hazard tree
Oh,
application.
sorry, I was talking and didn't unmute. I beg your pardon. Excuse me.
Okay.
It's taking about 2 weeks, and mainly because when folks upload their documents, especially the insurance documents, they're not adding they're not listing the city of Seattle as an additional insured. And so the insurance team has to review the documents and then send back a notice and then request the applicant work with their insurance company to list the city as an additional insured. And as a result, that takes a couple of weeks to process. But if everyone submits all the required documentation, it should take about a couple of days.
And
I
Paul,
hope that
you had
answers.
information on the hazard tree process permitting?
Yeah, I can answer that. Deb and I review the hazard tree applications, and it's a similar answer actually. Normally within 10 days, 10 to 14 days would be max. And but it's really dependent on whether the required documents are uploaded at application. So that's where tip 331B, the application requirements, definitely pay attention to that. And in the portal prompts you too for those documents. And so if everything's uploaded and it gets through the screening process and then gets onto our workflow, Deb and I try and turn those around in a timely manner, just, based on the liability. If a tree is indeed a high risk, it's not something we want to hold up. So it's just really dependent on getting that information in, getting the required docs in.
Right.
And like I said before, if it was an emergency, then you can make the application after the fact. But with those, I would caution they do need to be a true emergency, like an imminent tree that's either partially failed or is failing. So, and again, reach out. We're here to help and avoid sticky situations. And, you know, I've had tree services, last week email me photos of like a big willow tree where a piece fell on the house and the rest of the tree's clearly really decayed and could go at any second. And, we don't want the regulation to hold that process up. So we're here to help that. Yeah. But within 10 days would be our average time, I would think. And Deb, you can disagree with me if you want that.
Yeah, we try to get those turned around quickly. I see a question about, does SCCI have or intend to post any public facing information on how people can respectfully and safely approach a TSP mid-project to inquire about work to avoid issues? I think what that means is, like, say a neighbor is going by and thinks, sees tree work, sees the posting, and is concerned about whether it's, there's permits have been gotten. And I understand that that can be a dangerous situation if someone's just walking out, but from walking into the work zone. That can be certainly a hazardous situation for everyone involved. I don't know that we have we don't have any information, but it's not a bad idea to add something like that on our website.
Yeah, that can
To say,
be challenging. Yeah.
if you're concerned, it is a good idea to talk to the tree service, but not to barge onto the property, which would be trespassing anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other thing is they can. Well, they can look up whether, the tree service information, I guess, or contact information and call the company. That could be another way to do it.
Here's a question that I think you have an answer for. Those of us on the DOT tree provider list already have a COI listing the City of Seattle street use section. Do they need a separate COI for this?
Yes. For SDCI, yes. We're two separate registries. SDOT manages right of way, and the SDCI Tree Service Provider Registry is for work conducted on private property. And so, yes, you do need a COI for this registry as well.
Great. I think we really have just two more to get to. I think one of this may have a typo. I believe it says a notice is required for removing hazardous trees. Is a notice required when pruning to remove or reduce a hazardous situation?
Actually, I think someone might have said in this webinar that a notice is not required for removing hazard trees, and I think that was misstated. Maybe imminently hazardous trees where it's, about to fail, but in general, like an exceptional tree that is hazardous but has been approved for removal, you would generally need a notice to
Yeah,
remove that. And then again, if it's pruning, that to address a hazard, sort of the same thing applies. You wouldn't ever need approval for pruning, but if it's an imminent hazard situation where the um, you don't have time to do the notice, I don't think it would be required, but sort of the same thing. It's a good idea to document it before you do it if you can.
yeah, yeah. We don't want, if it's a risk to people and property, we definitely, like I said before, we don't want the process to get in the way of just common sense and safety. So,
So this is kind of the last question that I can find. For scheduling purpose, how does the provider work around moving previously scheduled work up the same day? For example, an opening, and they'd like to fill that opening with a job that it's scheduled for multiple weeks out, but there's less than 3 days to properly post. Um,
I
I think
think that,
that gets into
yeah.
business management, and I will let one of you try that one.
I think that's the code says it needs to have that posting for 3 days. So we're not going to tell you to not do that. So it's, the challenges of this posting piece. Definitely. I don't know if you have anything to add on that one, Deb.
Now,
No.
except for again, any questions or complaints about the legislation, I guess can go to a city council member. And I think Lisa posted, someone asked how to get in touch with the city council, and Lisa answered that question as the legislation was sponsored by council member Peterson, and council member Strauss has also been involved.
Okay.
Well, very good. We are at 6:14, and I do not see any more questions sitting in either of my queues. And so I will thank everybody, for joining. I'll take care of a little housekeeping, then I'll let you all speak. As you exit the meeting, you can save the chat file. You'll be given an opportunity, and it will save it, I believe, in your downloads folder. That way you have access to all the links that I've shared. Also, as you exit the meeting, you will be automatically redirected to our trees page. So you'll have access right then as well, and you can bookmark that. And with that, Deb, I'll return the floor to you for final words.
Well, thanks everyone for attending. And again, we'll be sending your information to ISA for CEU credits, and feel free to contact us with any questions. Thanks again. Have a good night.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I can help you with the application process. Please reach out. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. I encourage you to read the code, read the director's rule, look at all our resources, and don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. It's we're learning this new section of the code and navigating through it, and we're here to support you and hopefully be successful and look at it as hopefully a positive thing, the extra advertising.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks everyone.
Good night.
Bye.